So we did well with it until I had to move her out of the apartment, and we ended up in I call the system.
Yep.
And so I moved her into a memory care facility.
A memory care facility. So a place that was supposed to be a specialized, trained place where people knew how to help, knew what different kinds of dementia were going to be able to support mom in the later state of her life, because they were familiar with everything. And so they would be good at this, was what your thinking was.
I thought finally, because I was afraid at first, she's not going to stay there. It's going to be, but I think she got there, and finally she didn't have to stay inside the apartment. She could walk outside. She could walk down the halls.
Yes.
And that's what she did.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased because she would walk up and down the halls, and even out of her little area, she would sit and eat with the other people. I felt she adjusted exactly the way we hoped she would. Yay. But when they tried to toilet her or bathe her, Louis would show up.
Yep.
During those times. Other than that, she really seemed to adjust really well, but she had Lewy body dementia, so that explained the behavior. And within wasn't even quite a month that she had been there, all of a sudden they started talking to me about giving her medication.
Yep.
So I wasn't totally against it. I just wanted to understand, well, what's going on? I'm not, because I was there every day.
Yeah.
I was there every day.
You weren't an absentee family. You were an essential care part of her life. I mean, you were there. You were routinely part of her life.
I was there. And if I wasn't there, my aunt was there. Yep. I also had a camera. That was another key thing that I did where she was. I always had a camera. So I had not noticed anything that was out of their control. So I thought, so when we're talking medication, I was like, okay, so what's going on? Where's this coming from? And so they would tell me about, well, we tried to toilet her and she did this. I'm like, well, that's kind of, what happens with dementia. So can we try this? Let's not have 5 people try and shower her.
Yeah, exactly. No, let's think of some other options. Okay. Cause that's not going to work with her.
Let's try to see how, ways to approach her.
Yeah.
And how you talk to her. Let's be cognizant of your tone when you talk to her.
Yeah.
I understand it's difficult. And that's where I think we started miscommunicating.
Oh.
The next thing I knew, now mind you, it only been about a month. The next thing I knew, they would call me every day and say, okay, well, you're saying we're not telling you. So every day, your mom wouldn't let us change us today, change her today. Or the next day, I'm at work and they're calling me about normal dementia behavior. So, and about the 4th call, they called and said, we're sending your mom out because
psychiatric. She's being behaved. She's trying to hurt people.
Yeah, they said she tried to get a glass of water. She thought it was hers, I guess. And so she hit the lady. No, it wasn't,
she smacked
any blood drawn or anything.
No, it's just like she thought it was hers and nobody intervened in a reasonable fashion to say, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Here's your cup. I am so sorry. That was sitting exactly where yours was. You're absolutely right. Here you go.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly.
Okay, we need to not have that other lady up so close. Okay, let's.
Right. And now she and the other lady, I mean, they would walk around together.
Yeah,
the
they
lady,
were fine. Except in that moment. Yeah.
Yep. And so that happened. They sent her out. They called me and said, we're sending her out. So I rushed there. Don't put her in an ambulance, please. So I'm like, okay, I'll take her to the hospital. Like they said, so they put her in the psych ward of the hospital. And she and I spent 3 days in a psych ward of a hospital, 3 days waiting to get a psychiatric evaluation because that's what I needed for her to go back. So here I am working, doing IT from the psych ward of a hospital.
Unbelievable.
Waiting for.
I wish it were unbelievable. That's not true. It's all too believable. She had to stay there for 3 days for a psych eval to say that she could go back.
That she could come back. And so I'm on the phone talking to them, the hospital saying, we don't have a reason to have her here. Can she come back? And they're saying, and I have it in the records where they said she cannot come back until she has an evaluation from a doctor because she needs medication and her daughter is against it. Is exactly what they put in the records. I didn't know that at the time.
Oh.
So
wow.
When an opening happened and she was able to go to this psychiatric place, I didn't know what it was. I really thought they were just gonna, I didn't know. Oh. And within 10 days, I'm calling because for the first time, I'm not able to get to my mother, but I'm calling. And every time they allowed visitation for an hour, I was there. Well, after about the third visit, within 10 days, Mom was in a jerry chair and she couldn't talk. I remember her eyes were closed and she said, I'm okay. But she couldn't feed herself. She couldn't do anything. And I knew she's sedated.
Yep.
So on my next visit, I typed up the letter saying, as her medical power of attorney, you have to stop giving her whatever you're giving her. Right. Now, mind you, when I would call, they would say words to me. And I didn't know at the time. I wrote down risperidone, Haldol, Seroquel, Ativan. I wrote all these things in the notes. Right. Wow. And so I was going to give them the letter and say, please stop giving her whatever you're giving her because she's too sedated. She can't even respond. Before the visit that morning, they called and said, we could not wake your mom this morning, but we called the ambulance to take her to the hospital. We could not wake her. So I get to the hospital, to the ER. Mom is there. She seemed like, okay, I'm thinking they'll get some fluids in her. She'll be fine. But what happened is the next thing I knew, there was a cold blue. And they were taking me out of the room and everyone was running in and Mom went into cardiac arrest. Yep. She went into cardiac arrest. Her heart stopped twice and she ended up on life support. And all I could think of, if Mom walked into that facility, I took her there because she had dementia. They sent her out of that facility because she had dementia. Yeah. It was dementia behaviors why they sent her out. I'm like, that should never have happened.
No.
Like, how did we end up here?
Yeah. And they knew she had Lewy body and they still gave her those medications that are well known. 50% of people with Lewy body become toxic on those meds. That is not a free pass. That should have been written in as a drug allergy for her or something to protect her so that no one would do that to her.
And that's what I did not know at the time. And that's why every platform I get, I tell people first generational antipsychotics should never be given to a person with Lewy body dementia. It can be detrimental.
It can kill them.
I'm not a doctor, but I'll say it until I can't say it anymore.
Well,
because that's what I did not know.
You had firsthand knowledge of exactly how it does it too. I mean, she was not a woman who was taking a lot of meds. She was not somebody who was, she was netting herself or had taken a lot of medications, and to give her some kind of one, the other, or a combination. Yeah. I mean, that can be truly, that's the black box warning around those meds is for people with Lewy body disease. So on life support, and then.
So she was on life support and she pulled through. We didn't know. I mean, this was, we were just dealing with the behaviors a few weeks ago.
And all of a sudden,
now here my mom is on, she is on life support and we don't know whether we're going to get her back or not. And she pulled through. My mom was strong. And that's when I decided, she's really fighting for herself and I'm going to do whatever I can.
Yeah.
And that's why I told them, at the time that she is, full code.
Yep.
Because I want her to still have that quality of life. We still, before all this happened, like I said, she was walking around and she still enjoyed our company. We still talk with her. We still laugh.
Lunch with other people. I mean, she was, she had Lewy body, but she still had a life worth living.
Right. So that happened. And so now we're in the hospital with a person with Lewy body dementia. So she pulls through and then she goes to a regular room. So now, we're talking recovery. And then I started to learn about Lewy body dementia in a hospital setting. Now you have a person with this horrible disease in a closed environment.
And here are the rules and you've got to follow the rules and you can't do this and you're not allowed to do this. And
it's a constrained environment.
And totally.
Yeah. And you got things sticking, probing you, and different people coming in. Some people come in soft-spoken, other people come in loud.
They're touching your body all over the place. Suddenly they come down, they pull your covers down. They're going to help you. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah.
So the better she got, the thing about it is, as she got better, she started to become, the Lewy body dementia.
So herself and the Lewy body became very present because your mom was back to being the matriarch with a Lewy body on top of the matriarch.
And stuck in this little room. And so we spent a lot of time in the hospital, with her, hoping to coming back from that, which is what I thought, she'll get better. I'll hopefully get her back to this memory care where she did well. Well, we got into that loop of, trying to get her released to a facility, and that's hard because you can't have restraints, and restraints means someone is there has to be there to watch you. I have to watch her because she has this disease, and we don't want her to hurt herself, and that's not what they do at the hospital. So it's this loop. But I was able to find a place that would take her, which was really good. I vetted it, all of that. Now, this is another story I tell people, something else that happened. Finally, we were getting out of the hospital, and Mama's sitting on the side of the bed. We had lunch together. She's eating her lunch. She's talking. Great. The people came from the ambulance to pick her up. I'd been there so long, I need to return things to the desk. I'll be right back. So I left the room to return something. I came back. They're gone. And I said, what happened? They said, well, they already left. So they'd already taken her. So I got in my car. I went to the facility, and this was a rehab facility, a nursing home. I got there. Mama's in the bed, and she's unresponsive. Nothing like what she was when I left the room.
You left.
She was unresponsive. She couldn't talk. She was mumbling and reaching her hand in the air. But the nurses there were like, it was normal to them. They didn't know.
That's just the way.
And so
that's the way people come in here. Yeah,
that's just how it goes. Until finally, I opened my phone and I showed her the picture that I took of my mom right before she left the hospital a few hours ago. And the nurse goes, "Oh my God, that's her?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh my God, that's why you're so."
Yeah, that's why you're so upset. Oh, I thought you were a daughter out of control. Oh, you're actually a daughter that's smart and going, this doesn't make sense. What happened?
What happened? Did she come in like this? What happened? They said, yeah, she was like that when they brought her in. And she, she couldn't respond. She couldn't talk. And finally I had to decide, we just got out of the hospital. Am I overreacting?
Yeah, what do we do?
And it didn't seem to get better after a couple of hours. So I said, I have to take her back to the hospital.
Yeah.
This is not,
this is really different. This wasn't how she was when we were supposedly leaving the hospital. And the EMS folks did not, the ambulance folks didn't note she started off this way, she ended up this way or anything.
Nothing. I called the company and asked them what happened. They said, well, she was a little combative with them when they tried to take her. And now I can envision. She was fine. She was calm. I left the room. And these two men came and said they insisted that she go with them.
No.
And pretty much put her on this gurney and take her away. They scared her into hysteria. That I think that can happen.
Oh, she was definitely can. Her brain went to a safe place of hiding. She was hiding because it was absolutely overwhelming, and her brain shut down, and her body and her brain shut down because that was the safest thing for her brain and body to do right then is hide.
And that's what happened.
Hide in plain sight. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So she had a huge setback after all those weeks of recovering from cardiac arrest. She had a setback. She ended up in the ER. She ended up intubated again and on life support again.
Oh, no.
Yes. And we ended up, and I'm thinking she can't go through this again. She won't survive this again.
Yeah.
But she did. She did. She came back.
You call Lewy body the Lazarus syndrome. You know that, right? I mean,
I didn't know that.
It's one of the things I'll say is this is like living with Lazarus. I mean, until it's time to not be present, they keep coming back.
Yeah.
And you don't know when the time is that they won't come back. You just really don't know because they don't know.
Well, I've definitely heard of what they call the up and down. There's a term they call the
syncopal episodes, maybe.
Something like that. But this was kind of different. These were things that I could see that was happening in in these situations.
Yeah.
That was kind of contributing.
I mean, these were all triggered events.
Events. And so I always tell people that from my experience, just from that memory care, the ambulance situation, and some other things that happen, I always say, anyone who comes in contact with someone with dementia, Lewy body dementia, whatever, I don't care if you are a caregiver, if you work in the kitchen, if you're an ambulance driver, whatever you are doing, you need to be aware and cognizant of the disease and how to interact with them. Yeah. So after Mom came through that situation, she had some other ambulance rides, but I always made sure I was there. I talked to them. I made her a real person to them. Mm-hmm. And I recall one ambulance ride she had, and the guy said I felt comfortable with them. They'll take care of her. And he played music for her. He said he played Sam Cooke for her. And he asked her, was that okay? She said that was good.
Good job. Because she's in an unfamiliar situation with unfamiliar people doing weird stuff. And so having something that offers comfort, wow, what a difference that can make. And what
a difference.
Absolutely.
So I was always I always felt like I was, how did I describe it? Managing something that was uncontrolled. I was always trying to keep my hands around situations and things that people were doing. Yeah. No, don't give her. When she was in a hospital or facilities, I would write on the board or whatever I could do. Do not give antipsychotics.
Good for you.
Call daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was always those type things that we were going through. And Mom never really fully recovered from that cardiac arrest. She actually never really walked again, but she did learn to move her wheelchair, her version of walking, but she could never go back to the memory care, which I'd hoped for her. Then it became more of a nursing home. And then I realized that was a whole different thing because nursing homes are not memory care.
Nope.
Yeah. So that was very different. Definitely, the medication, they wanted to give the medication, and I became
you became the wicked daughter.
I was going to say something else, but
the wicked daughter that gave them a hard time about this stuff. They were just trying to do "quote unquote" what was better for your mom, and it's like no, it was convenient. Those are drugs of convenience. And those are drugs because you don't have enough staff. Those are drugs because your staff are not.
Exactly.
Those are drugs because your mom deserves to be able to move around if she wants to move around, and you don't want her to.
Right. Yeah. Right. And even though not that it's an excuse in the nursing home, I can understand maybe they're not memory care specialists, but the memory care facility, I definitely felt that the medication was the way they dealt with their resource issues.
Yeah. I mean, and that's unfortunately more and more, we're back to, we had made some nice strides. I will say that we were moving away from medication as the answer because we had the evidence of like your mom's cases where these, like bad things happen to people who got those meds. Mm-hmm. But then, with this pandemic business, I know that we've gone back to some patterns of behavior that are not good. So the journey continued with more and more episodes of trying to keep your finger on the pulse, trying to keep things from getting out of control.
Right. The journey continued, and we're in the nursing home, and I'm there every day, sometimes twice a day, because the halls were really wide. So it allowed her to, go up and down the halls with the wheelchair. And I did something I don't know, everybody may not be able to do it, but I hired private caregivers to come into the nursing homes. Our cousin she came back. She came back, and so I heard people, myself and my aunt.
Wow,
we were there, and the truth is, we were really caring for her.
You were essential caregivers. You were the essential
caregivers.
Essential caregivers for her.
The essential care until the walkout day because of the pandemic, and they literally had to walk me out because I waited until I had to go. Until they literally walked me out, and no one knew what was going on.
You knew.
Well, I knew the care would change.
You knew,
but I didn't know.
Alone. I mean, you knew she shouldn't be alone.
I knew. Yeah, I didn't want her to be alone. I wanted to be sure that she was eating, she was hydrated. So that was, I called every day.
Yep.
Because I wanted to know, how is she doing? What's her disposition? And because they were going through so much and handling the pandemic, the calls were more disruptive to them.
Well, they didn't have a strategy for how to help you by saying, okay, tell you what, I'm going to call you. If there's anything weird, I will call you at a different time, but I will give you a call.
Just assure me that, you're definitely going to take care of your mom.
I'm so sorry, but there are choices that we make, and there are consequences to choices that we make.
Exactly. So I became disruptive to them. I ended up with nurses hollering at me on the phone because I was calling the corporate office or the ombudsman just so that I could find out what was going on. And I said, just like you have a response plan to the pandemic, that should include, that's a major change. A major stakeholder of this change is family members. We didn't go away.
Yep.
We still need information. And part of that plan should include communication to family members.
Yep.
And so I wrote some letters saying that, there should still be oversight in nursing homes, because guess what? All the problems we always had in nursing homes didn't stop.
And they got more because some of us who were there routinely that helped deal with issues when they came up aren't there anymore. And we know that. We're not stupid. We know we aren't there. And we know you didn't get more staff.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, that was horrible, after the pandemic and not being able to be there. But I did eventually get her out of the nursing home.
Okay.
I was going to say last year, but it was year before. I did eventually get her out.
Time tends to telescope when you're in this.
Right.
Yeah. So you got her home, or you got her out, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, I got her out. And unfortunately, I think by the time I got her out, the toll of being,
she had lost so much.
The isolation and, had taken its toll. Yeah. So I actually got her out into another memory care, which I thought it could be like before. She seems to be okay, but she had a really bad fall the night before I got her out. And I didn't know until a few days later how bad that fall must have been, because she started to get bruises and she had a knot on her head. So it had to be that first. I don't know if that's what contributed to it, but, she started having seizures. And so she really ended up back in the hospital. And this time I kind of knew that this is different. This is different. Yeah. So I ended up bringing her home. I lived in a townhouse, which is why there was never room for her to move around.
Match. That would not be a good match. Yeah.
You're right. So I lived in a townhouse, but my husband and I started building a house that we were going to move to, and we were going to bring mom to the house with us. And so I did bring her to the townhouse. Of course, now she's in the bed, and they're saying, this is probably prepare yourself. But I did something. I'm not telling everyone else to do it. I made a decision, to little by little give her a little something to eat. And I'd say she came back, but she came back enough that mom and I talked more. We laughed more. She started eating. She was like, oh, I can hold my cup. So I'm like, great. Okay.
You're not ready to go yet. Okay.
Not yet, exactly.
Not yet.
And she did. She started eating, almost
you brought her home to die, but she just came home to live is what happened. She decided she was going to live after all for a bit.
She gave me what I needed at that time. She gave me what I needed, and we talked and laughed some more. And our cousin, the caregiver, she came and she would sit with her while I worked upstairs. So because of the pandemic, I was home.
Yep.
So it made all of that easier.
Yep.
And after Thanksgiving that year, I think it was after Thanksgiving, her birthday in December, Mom would just start to hold her food in her mouth. Is that's kind of how it started. She would drink and she would just hold
then not knowing how to swallow the food, it would just get in and it would get stuck. Yeah.
It's like she forgot how to swallow.
Forgot how to swallow the food. Yeah.
And I knew that I was still kind of afraid what might happen, but I knew I couldn't keep forcing the food. And so little by little, after she kind of stopped swallowing the food, she really just kind of just slowly faded. But not before. I always remember one day when I was giving her a little cup of water or something, I turned around and she grabbed my hand and she took my hand and she did this. And she kissed it and she said, "I love you." And I needed that. You needed because that. I didn't know at the time that she could do that she understood who I was. And I remember talking to her and said, "I'm your daughter, you're home." I wanted her to feel safe. Yep. You're home, you're with family, I'm your daughter. And she never ceased to amaze me. She said, "I know that, and that's a good thing."
I love it.
Like, okay.
Cool.
So I'm glad I got a chance to experience those things with her towards the end. But I always tell people, even at that time, I don't know if Mom knew that I was Bonnie.
Yeah.
I don't know. She said she knew I was her daughter, but what I know is that she knew that I loved her. She understood how I made her feel, to the fact that she, even with the late stage of dementia, she knew how to express it to me by kissing the back of my hand. To me, that was profound.
Yeah, that is.
She knew how to express it.
As much damage as her brain had endured, she still knew where love was and what love was. And she still could offer it right back. Yeah.
And that is the key. And I tell people, if you're caring for a person with dementia, one of the key things is to, whatever it is that you're doing, make them feel that they're safe.
Yep.
Make them feel they're safe, because they're living in a world of fog. They're living in a world of, we can't imagine. So whatever you do, try to make them feel safe. If that's just touching them gently, talking to them gently, not forcing them to do things. And that's how along the way I came up with what I say is, in making decisions, like how they sent my mom out. Mm-hmm. The focus should be fighting the disease, not the person. We're caring for the person. Yeah. We're fighting the disease. Yeah. Yeah. And
if you want something to not be present, then I understand all that, but I can't take dementia out of the person. So don't forget the person is part of this equation. And you've got to absolutely care for that human being. And that human being has great value.
Yes.
From beginning to end of life, that
until the end. Until the end, they can still love and be loved.
Yeah. So Bonnie, here's what I want to say. Thank you. Thank you for your conversation and the courage to have it, because I think there are way too many daughters who don't step forward after all this caring and say, and here's what I learned. Here's the good things. And here's the things that if I were going to do it again, I would try harder to not go, "Oh, okay." Yeah. Or I would do something different, because these were the inflection points that made a difference. And some I might not be able to change, but if I were going to do it again, I wouldn't regret the journey, but I would like to change some of the destination we went to.
And I don't get a do-over.
Nope.
But by sharing my information,
you're going to pay it
to do it over through other people who can hopefully not have to go through the antipsychotic situation, or they can understand what to expect in the facilities.
Yeah.
So I want to share whatever I can share with people through platforms like this. And I also, several months ago, I started writing it down, and I am in the process of publishing a book.
Cool.
It probably won't be a big book, a small book, but just something that tells several stories of how I cared for Mom, throughout the journey, the good days and the bad days, because there were many good days.
That's the cool part. There are lots of good moments in this journey, but boy, those bad days really do take a toll on us, and on them. So recognizing, what did I get at? What did I learn from that? Because I want somebody else to be able to use that so that we're not just repeating the same things over and over.
Yeah.
So tell me 2 things you're doing now for yourself that are good things for you, Bonnie. What are some things that you're doing really a good job for Bonnie? Because Bonnie, we got to take care of Bonnie, because Bonnie's how's the house coming?
I am in Mom's room right now. This room was going to be her room, and it's my office. So,
that's a good place to be.
Yes, yeah. We actually moved about a month after she passed, and I had a sense of peace because I felt like Mom said, "You go on. It's okay." But she would sometimes tell me when I was spending all the nights with her, she said, "I know you have a husband. You don't have to stay with me." So I have a sense of peace about that. And even though when I look back, I see how hard it was, it was, I guess, an honor, I'll say, to have cared for her, to make sure that, as much as I could, that she was safe.
Yeah.
And so, I have support groups of other people, and I'm glad in those support groups I'm able to talk to them and share my story of things that, I've gone through, even though I'm on the other side of it now.
Yeah. I think, having been around many IT people, I think you're a more complete person you would ever have been if you hadn't had this experience in addition to doing IT work. Because I think it gave you some strengths and some skills, but I think doing this kind of work gives you a whole different ability set than you might otherwise have.
Oh yeah, I became like I said, I never wanted to really work in the medical field, but yes, I've done some things.
There you go. Well, everybody, it is our pleasure to have Bonnie here sharing her courageous conversation with you. And I hope you all are taking away some amazing opportunities you have to look at situations and look at the care journey that you're on, or maybe look at someone around you and go, oh, yeah, that's what, and realize, wow, I'm not the first one that's been through this, but I can learn from others' experience. So this could be different. So thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Teepa Snow, and you just found our YouTube channel and watched one of our videos. I'm the owner and founder of Positive Approach to Care. Thanks for watching. And if you liked, if you have a comment about, or you would, please share it with people you know. Oh, and if you haven't yet done it, consider subscribing. We'll let you know when the next new video comes out. And you might want to visit our website, www.teepasnow.com, where you'll find other resources as well. See you there.